We're going to move on with a look through the international newspapers with Florence Villeminot. Hi there.
Yes.
And you're going to start us off in the United States. Such a dominant story for such a long time in this presidential election campaign. Hillary Clinton's emails. We had new developments Friday. The newspaper's still talking about it.
That's right. This is the director of the FBI, James Comey. He says that maybe he found new emails, maybe not, but he wrote a letter to Congress saying that maybe there were these new emails that were linked to that Hillary Clinton email scandal. It's getting a lot of attention, but especially he's getting a lot of attention. Check out the editorial of the New York Times today, outraged by what's going on. James Comey's big mistake. Now, they're particularly outraged, first of all, about the timing of this letter, just 11 days before the presidential election, but also the fact that it didn't seem that logical. According to this editorial, it seems like he actually didn't really even know what was in this new batch of emails before writing this very important letter that could be election shaking. That's what they say. And so this is why the New York Times is very upset about the situation.
I think we can say it has definitely shaken the election. How much impact it will have, of course, we'll have to find out in a week's time. But yesterday, Team Clinton was really all guns blazing. They blasted Comey. He is a Republican, as it happens. They said he was displaying jaw-dropping double standards.
That's right. And several papers are reporting about this. First of all, CNBC and the Huffington Post, I pulled out their article. They're reporting that earlier this year, James Comey, he sought to withhold evidence of Russian support for Trump. And why did he do this? Well, because he was afraid that he would be influencing the election. Now, this was after there were those reports that Russia had allegedly meddled in the election by hacking the Democratic National Convention and email accounts, et cetera. And so this is why Team Clinton is saying, whoa, there's a total double standard here. If he didn't want to influence the election then, well, why is he coming out about these maybe emails in this new batch?
And quite a few critics in various different publications going so far as to accuse him of trying to influence the election.
That's right. I pulled out, first of all, a piece in the Daily Beast today. This is by Michael Tomasky, who says, he's outraged. He says this is blatant email tampering. You can see, he says that Comey is putting the thumb on the scale, bringing a third world style election to America. There's an interesting cartoon in the Washington Post by Tom Tolles, where you can see it's not the Federal Bureau of Investigation, it's the Federal Bureau of Innuendo. And you can see this elephant, which represents the Republican Party, saying, a new fuel delivery for our email gate. Now, the Washington Post has an interesting editorial today because it must be said, Democrats are freaking out about this whole thing. And it says, what do we do now? And it says, take a deep breath and remember what's important. And the Washington Post, which has endorsed Hillary Clinton, says, do remember that, try to see beyond the fog of all these emails and remember that Donald Trump is unfit to be president and Hillary Clinton is fit to be president.
All right, let's move on to some other news. In Turkey, the newspapers themselves making the headlines. The chief editor of one of the leading opposition dailies has been detained. This is as part of that, what they're calling a terrorism probe.
That's right. You can read more about it in the Turkish press, of course. This is the front page of Hurriyet Daily News, the English language version. So these are writers from the influential central left daily Hurriyet. And they were accused of helping the propaganda of the exiled cleric Fethullah Gulen, who's been accused of plotting that failed coup d'etat in July. And they're also accused of helping the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party. Now, there's an interesting analysis piece in Hurriyet Daily News today that talks about, here we go, more Turkish journalists are in jail. There's no use in trying to understand the logic behind these accusations, according to this piece. And this piece actually accuses the president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, of using the sympathy that he's received in the wake of the failed coup d'etat to just try to further get his grip on power. And that's what these arrests are all about, according to this article.
All right, moving on to Lebanon. You got some Western comments, some Middle Eastern comment on the new president who's been nominated after more than 2 years.
That's right. You can see photos of celebrations on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. So these are fans of Michel Aoun. You can see the gridlock gives way to glee. Now, he won the support of 83 lawmakers in the 127-member chamber to become Lebanon's 13th president, but it wasn't all smooth sailing in parliament. You can read an interesting piece about that in the Lebanese paper Al Akhbar, which says that several lawmakers tried to trip up the voting process by actually, at one point, putting too many envelopes in the ballot box. It was supposed to be a really quick vote, and it ended up taking a really long time. They had to vote 4 times, in fact. And the Al Akbar says that, this wasn't very professional. And this article accuses lawmakers of making a joke of democracy in front of the world media. It's very embarrassing and proof that Lebanese lawmakers don't really care about what's going on.
We've also got that massive story from Morocco, all the public anger after the death of a fish seller who seemed to have had a confrontation with police about whether he was allowed to sell his fish or not, and then died in apparently a very gruesome way.
That's right. It's getting a lot of attention around the world. Le Parisien reports on how far will Morocco's anger go. This whole situation reminds a lot of people of the situation that kicked off the Arab Spring in Tunisia back in 2010. Now, there's a very interesting report in Al Maghreb 24, the TV channel, about how all this is playing out online. Many people have taken to social media to express their anger, but what's interesting is other people are saying, watch out, we don't want to follow the paths of other Arab Spring countries. And so it's very interesting to see this play out online as well.
It certainly is. Thanks so much, Florence Vimino, looking through some of the top international headlines for us today.